My name's Patrick Foley, and this is my review of Code Duello from the Tithebanner Saga. This is a largely a fantasy-based film, but one with quite a heavy science fiction background. It's set in a world in which two galaxies have collided in this cataclysmic event, and the survivors of two societies have come together and are now living in a new world where they've reverted to more medieval means of living. Ruling over much of the story that we see is a character called Duke Horic, who's this sort of megalomaniac despot who rules over this new land with an iron fist. The story itself largely revolves around two female characters, Kirwan and Elsa, who begin this forbidden romance which threatens not only their own existence and their own society's existence, but their own futures itself, as they have to evade the interests of Horic. Code Duello is quite clearly designed to be the first of many stories set in this saga, the Tithebanner Saga, that has come from the mind of writer Eleanor Atkins. It's a seriously ambitious sort of story world that's been created here that revolves around a medieval society. There's lots of swords and elf ears and very sort of Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones sort of type tropes, but also this very, very high concept science fiction setup as well of this being this world coming to be by the collision of galaxies, which also lends to this sort of science fiction spin on the whole thing too. There's a lot of sort of young adult elements and influences there as well. I particularly noted series sort of like Shadow and Bone and perhaps the sort of new gen Twilight influence of the forbidden romance in this fantasy world coming to the fore. It's quite a common sort of story beat now, but there are some interesting twists on that sort of genre. Plenty of high concept dialogue that the cast actually do a pretty good job with delivering. It's very easy to become a bit spinal tappy if you're not fully committed to it, and by and large the cast, particularly the two female leads, all do really well in delivering the lines and in building a convincing world. I was also really impressed with the set design, the costume design, the set locations that make immersing yourself in the film's world very easy. It's a very pretty looking film. It's a very believable film, and given that it is working on a slightly lower budget, the filmmakers really deserve credit for how good everything looks and how convincing everything looks. Where I feel the film does fall down a bit is the runtime, which comes in just over an hour, but that doesn't really give the story much time to really develop. Feels like once the characters themselves are actually established, they're already sort of racing through a lot of the beats that you may already have been able to guess as anyone who's familiar with this type of genre of what developments might come up, but nevertheless we don't really get time to get to the real heart of what the characters are about before we're racing on to the next story development. And that is a bit of a shame, because the romance angle and the sort of love triangle element with the two leads is engaging and it's convincing and it's well performed by both the actresses. Morgan Black and Paula Mikolaychik do a really good job of convincing the viewer of the romance their characters are undertaking, and also for playing up the dangers that come with that. Ryan Thompson's Duke Horic is also a really formidable, fierce adversary. It's good to spend time with that character, and in the time that we do get, you get the sense of how threatening he is, how angry he is, how he's come to rule this world, and he does come across as a really threatening presence. As I said, we don't really get enough of those moments with those characters before we're racing into moments that undo some of the things we've seen prior in the story. The key is them being there in the first place, and that is one of the film's biggest successes, is how well it does deliver these moments. And obviously the reduced runtime may be a result of the budget it's working with, but as an overall finished feature, it was something that stood out to me that probably would have allowed it to breathe a little more. But ultimately, for a film that promises future installments by virtue of it being a part of a saga, there is enough here that the filmmakers can definitely point to as successes to justify further engagement from their audience. Fans of the sort of high fantasy and young adult genres, if they come across Code Duello, they will enjoy what they find there. And I've no doubt that some of the story beats that are set up and maybe move through quite quickly will get the chance to breathe a little bit more if there are future installments of this saga. The strength of its characters and the drama that exists within the story is definitely more than enough to capture the attention and for leaving viewers wanting more and wanting to look out for the rest of the saga.